this is Jared Snider. So glad to be visiting with you today. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about family giving. How do we give money to the next generation or future generations? What are some easy ways to accomplish that? There are a lot of different ways you can approach this. Giving kind of exists on a continuum of simplicity and to complexity. There are simple ways to give smaller amounts. And then if you're wanting to give larger amounts of money to future generations, you can accomplish that, but there's just going to be more complexity that goes with those larger dollar amounts of giving. So today, we're going to focus more on those simple ways, and in future conversations, we will dive into more of the complex planning tools that you could use to be able to effectively give more of your assets, your estate, to those future generations while you're still living. So let's focus on the simple things first. The easiest, simplest thing to do to give money or to give assets to the next generation is to use your annual estate tax exclusion. So right now, under current law, that number is $15,000. You can give $15,000 to anyone that you wish, and it doesn't count against your lifetime estate tax exemption. Your lifetime estate tax exemption right now is around $11.6 million. And that's there for you. And then your spouse, if you're married, also has an $11.6 million exemption. Combined, that's about a $23 million exemption from estate taxes. Meaning if your estate is under that level whenever you and your spouse have both passed away under current law through the end of 2025, there's no estate tax owed. So each year you're able to give up to $15,000 a year and it not count against that really big $11.6 million number. So here's a quick example to think about. So let's assume you're married, you and your spouse want to give money to your child and your child's spouse to fund a home purchase, and you need to be able to get money in their hands. Well, you can effectively give them $60,000 because you can give your child $15,000, your spouse can give your child $15,000, and then you guys can do the exact same thing for your daughter or son-in-law. So it's a really simple, really easy way of getting up to $60,000 a year in the next generation's hands. And that $15,000 number, you can do that to, you can give that to as many people as you want. So kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whomever. Or if you're having to go the other way and help to support your parents, you can do that and gift money to them. So those are really simple, really easy ways of getting money in the next generation or the previous generation's hands. One other planning tool to think about is an intra-family note. So this just means lending money to family members and doing that, especially if we're trying to sort of navigate how do we get more than the annual estate tax exclusion gift amount into the next generation's hands or into other family members' hands. You can use an intra-family note to do that. So in our little example here, if we've gifted $60,000 to kids, maybe to go fund a home purchase, but they really need another $40,000. Well, how do we do that without that $40,000 gift counting against the estate tax exemption? The easiest, simplest way to do that is to do an intra-family note. So you create an interest-only note, which is just basically a loan agreement between you and your spouse and your child. And you say, hey, we're lending you this money. You're borrowing this money from us. We're doing it on an interest-only basis, meaning you only have to pay interest. There's no principal payments required. And then you set a balloon payment date out sometime in the future. And then in future tax years, you use your future year's annual estate tax exemption for gifting to be able to forgive that note. So the effect is you're giving that money, you're getting that money into the hands of your kids with no expectation that the principal is going to be repaid. You're using your annual gift exclusion to be able to accomplish that. And the cost to your kids would be just a little bit of interest payment. It's probably advisable, for them to make at least one or two interest payments to be able to demonstrate that the transaction really is arm's length, that if the IRS ever audited, they would recognize it as a loan and not as a gift. So those are a couple of ideas to think about, just other things that you could do if we're thinking about taking care of other family members besides ourselves and using our resources to do that. Things like covering healthcare expenses. If you're paying healthcare expenses and paying those directly to the healthcare provider, on behalf of another family member, those types of transactions don't have any implications for the estate tax exemption. So you can do that completely separate of that $15,000 a year limit. You can also pay education expenses directly, in a very similar way, and not count against that estate tax exemption. So hopefully that's helpful for you. If you have questions on any of this, let me know, particularly around family notes. Think that might sound a little more complex. Something that we've handled a whole lot, as you can imagine, and we'd be happy to have a discussion with you around what next steps would be. In a future conversation, like I said, we'll talk about some of those more complex planning ideas for gifting, potentially substantially more than that $15,000 per year number that we referenced. Thanks. Hope you have a great day.